And Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna Lee here today to share with you this multi-photo layout featuring chain stitching. So I have used the digital cut file from A Cherry on Top to create my template and, well, to cut out the pieces which will then be the template for the stitching per se. And so I am using the negative to place the pattern paper on the page, and then I'm going to do some chain stitching around each of the paw prints. So I'm working with the Meow collection from Bella Boulevard that is available at A Cherry on Top. This is the monthly A Cherry on Top Hop where the theme is animals. And I have cats, and you know my cat layout, so I am featuring my cats as my animals. So in order to chain stitch, this is slightly different than chain stitching on fabric because it's much harder to bend the paper to go down and up the fabric at the same time. So you need to punch holes first. I still have stitching foam that is from We Are Memory Keepers. However, apparently this is no longer being manufactured. So I got this idea to do chain stitching from the great Allison Davis. And she learned from somebody else that if you use foam core from the Dollar Tree, it's perfect. So I'm not actually using the ruler, but I'm using the ruler to give me the visual of that 1/4 inch. So I'm trying to punch about a 1/4 inch all the way around each of the toe beans and then the paw pad. So I have 2 threads that I have selected. One is a gray to go on that gray and white fish pattern paper. The other is sort of more of that tealy aqua color. So for chain stitching on paper, you want to use all 6 threads. So DMC thread comes with 6 threads. I often, when I'm just doing back stitching, use only 3 or 4 threads, but for this, you want to use all 6 threads. So you're going to thread your needle, and then I tie a knot in the end because I've come up too many times and unstitched, so I don't want to have to fix that. So I always put a knot. So you're going to come up from the back side and then go down that same hole, but leave a loop. Then you're going to come up at the next hole through that loop, and I'm going to show you what happens. So sometimes if your thread is too long, hopefully this doesn't happen until you've gotten a little further into the project, but things knot up. So you want to be very careful, especially when you've had your floss on the little spools that I keep them on. It tends to create a lot more kinks in the thread. So, and then you're going to pull that tight, but not too tight because you want to be able to see that loop. So then I'm going to anchor my thread with my finger is what I should be doing. And then I'm going to go back down that same hole. And so you can see, and that creates a loop. And you want to not go too far and then go up the next hole through the loop and then pull down the same hole. Don't get stuck on your corner. Kind of watch what's going on. There's the loop, and I'm going to come up in the next hole through the loop. Back down the same hole, creating a loop. I always anchor my loop early on here where the paper is still pretty bendable, but you'll see in the next segment of the video that once you have more structure to the page, it is much harder to do this the way that I am currently doing it because there's less bendability, I'm going to say, to the paper. So this, my friends, is a chain stitch. And then what I'm going to show you here, I think, is that if you go too fast, oh, no, next stitch maybe. But it does happen that you lose some of your stitches. Okay, so you want to make sure that you don't, see there, I lost a bunch of my stitches because I didn't anchor that loop. And so what happens is you just start again. And it's not again, you just start from where you finally pick up that, oh darn, see, I didn't catch the loop. So I found catching the loop or I find catching the loop early on as I'm sewing through my thumb or anchoring the thread so that it can't go any further through the hole works really well. But you will see coming up shortly that that does change as you have more structure to your page. So I'm literally going to repeat this process around each of the pads and each of the toe beans. And then here we are with most of it completed. This is just the last part here. I have sped this up, so literally up, down through the same hole, through the loop. But see how I have to go a little bit slower so that I can flip the page to see what it is that I'm doing. And you can see how I sort of tighten that a little bit by pulling on the thread. See how this is just a little bit different in this process here where I've got a lot more structure on the page there. So then when you get to the end, you don't want, right? You want to finish that loop off. And so because I'm ending at a picture, what I'm going to do, you'll see, also before we get there, there's tape underneath this because of where I've anchored and started. And so it's much harder to see my hole. So I have to use my needle to poke down through the tape right there and then see where I'm going back up. And it's a little bit harder to pull through. So you can see there how I end this. And then what I'm doing is I've ended underneath the photo and then just creating a loop and tying it through almost like a chain stitch in a way, right? But I'm not going through the same spot. And then I use artist's tape to just anchor that down on the back. You could use washi to tie off all of my loose ends. So that, my friends, is chain stitching on patterned paper. I love the look and the texture that it gives. And you can see how on that fishy paper, patterned paper, how it just gives it a little, it pops that pattern. So look at this versus earlier on in the video where you couldn't really see those tone-on-tone patterns as crisply as you can see them now. So I could have stitched through the 2 layers of paper. I find that really hard to do. I also find that it tends to not shred, but it doesn't keep the lines of the floss as clean. And I also like how if I decide to mat my page as I've done here, it hides all of the mess of the hand stitching, and you are less likely as you move it in and out of a page protector to catch those threads as well. So the top left photo is Luna, our gray cat, and the bottom right photo is Jasmine, our tortoiseshell tabby, and they are sisters. So I am working with the pink, white, and aqua / teal components of this collection and the gray. And you'll see I'm going to struggle here. So I have 2 long bannered phrases. I really want 3. And I will not, as on this process video, actually put the 3 in, but there will be 3. I'm going to put the 3rd one above that meow right there, but to the left. Because, and then I move the blue one with the paws down to the bottom. So it's a little bit of a cascade, kind of, I call it a ping pong ball cascade down the page. And you've got your 3, your visual triangle, that ties it together. So you're going to see as I'm building, and putting all of these things down, that there is that gaping hole on the left-hand side. And I know that there's that gaping hole on the left-hand side, and I'm taking very much into consideration as I am constructing this layout here that is where the journaling is going to go. So you're going to still get white space there. But I don't want you to be concerned as I'm building that I have all of this stuff going on, and yet I have that very obvious hole. I know it's there, and I know as I said, that is where journaling is going to go. And what ultimately happens is I find a 49 The Market. I think it was about 2 years ago they released color collections. So I have the pink, a pink journaling spot that is where I work right in there, and you'll see that in the close-ups. I also decide that I need a little something to anchor that, and so off camera I will use a piece of one of the Bella Bestie stripes, tone on tone, with some pink paws and a mouse, and one of the phrases from the the phrase sheet. There's a pattern paper that has multiple phrases with lines drawn around them, boxes, rectangles, or squares, depending on the shape of them. So I am trying to alternate some of the get an equal balance here with that hot pink along with the softer pink in my color elements as I'm moving down the page there. So this is a hop. This is for a cherry on top, our monthly hop. So be sure to leave a comment down below and then go visit all of the other gals' YouTube videos and see what they've done for animals and leave comments there for a chance to win a $25 gift card to the A Cherry on Top store. Enjoy the close-ups. Thanks for stopping in today. I hope you're doing well. Come back again soon. Take care.